Thanks for coming again. Are there any extraordinary items? None that I know of. Oh, item 6. Sorry. Apologies. Kia ora, Kendall and Margie, I can see there, I think. The screen is very small, but we have the Albertine Local Board coming to speak about the plan change for notification on the notable trees schedule, and also Manaki Tamaki Makoto, the Auckland Council Open Space, Sports and Recreation Strategy. Kia ora to you all.
Kia ora. You can hear me?
Sure can.
Right. Should I start now?
Yes, please. You've got the normal 5-ish minutes, and I'm sure there'll be questions as well.
Fabulous. Thank you. Good morning. And yeah, should we do that at the end?
Oh, yeah, up to you. Go.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the committee about the new open space strategy and notable trees. Due to time restraints, we will focus on the former, and Margie will give a brief little spiel about the notable trees. On your agenda, you will be being asked to adopt a new strategy for open space, sport, recreation for Auckland. This decision will define the feel of our city and the quality of life for generations to come. My request to you is to pause on the provision and acquisition sections of this strategy. We think this section needs further work, and we urge you not to adopt those sections today. The Albertine Local Board has had a keen focus on open space this term. In addition to providing input into the draft strategy, we also had a local board member, Margie, on the joint working party. At the same time, we have been tracking the progress of the private plan change to the unitary plan for the Wairaka precinct. This is the development near Carrington Road at the ex-Unitec land. We provided formal feedback and spoke at the hearing in November last year. While the site is specific to our area, it is a case study for high density development and a test for providing good open space outcomes for communities across Auckland. The outcome has been very disappointing, with a real lack of good quality usable open space considering the density that has been accepted, including heights allowed to 27 metres in central sections, 35 metres in northern sections, and 3 tower blocks with heights of up to 72 metres. They are equivalent of tower blocks of around 13, 16 and 21 stories. Given the importance of this work and the key role local boards play, we're speaking with you directly to share our feedback and urge you to consider it before making today's decision. In our feedback, you will see that we support most sections of the draft. The section we do not support is Policy 2, Open Space Provision and Acquisition, and its 2 associated objectives 6 and 7. We have a number of key concerns about Policy 2. Firstly, this policy has been planned without considering the overall implications of the decision relating to Plan Change 94 at the Wairaka precinct, which is a precedent for Auckland. We think Council needs to consider the following: the relationship between the RMA processes and decisions and Council's policy on open space, the implications for Council's approach to implementing the NPS-UD and flow-on consequences for policies on open space, and the adequacy of proposed strategy for open space in brownfield or high-intensity areas. Secondly, we hold the following high-level views on Policy 2 as currently drafted. We consider the overall provision of open space and the standards for acquisition are restrictive and do not provide for a well-designed urban environment. Council should set a higher provision rule of at least 20 square metres per capita before considering other measurements such as walking distance. We think the policy needs to allow for exceptional and compelling cases to be considered for acquisition that exceed the provision and acquisition standards like the Wairaka precinct. We think that Council needs to ensure that large developments, including those led by the Crown, provide adequate levels of open space before changes and resource consents are granted. We request the governing body increase funding for acquisition on open space in the next LTP to support the growing city and the important function open space plays for both biodiversity and people. The open space policy should also be linked to the DC policy, and that developers should be required to provide open space as part of that contribution and associated infrastructure development at no cost to council. We have also raised a number of specific points in our feedback, which you will find in our resolutions. The report before you recommends that the draft is adopted, but there is another option outlined in the report too. This is to adopt the strategy except for policy 2, and request staff to undertake more work on the open space provision standards. We request the committee choose this option. This policy will shape Auckland's open space for the next generation, and we know once we have missed an opportunity to provide parks in our growing city, those opportunities are lost forever. I'll hand over to Marky to mention the notable trees.
Yeah, just very briefly, on your report, you're also asked for feedback on additions to Schedule 10 of the AUP on notable trees. Those reports went out to local boards earlier this year. Our feedback was there are 4 very large native trees in one street. However, only one was listed in the program, and we believe that all 4 should be assessed at the same time. The report stated additional analysis. Any additional analysis necessary will be undertaken following the receipt of local board views. That isn't being progressed because we've been told it's a no. So we would have liked to have seen all 4 trees assessed, not just one. Thank you. Happy to take questions on both items, but focus on the first one maybe. Thank you.
Thank you both. Maggie, if you could send us those trees just for out of interest to see what we can do. I think it may have been a timing issue, I'm not sure, but if those specific addresses, if you could send it our way, then we can just double check the time. And on just a quick comment, I've got, before I obviously heard your comments, Chair, but I have 2 chairs recs that are going on the open space around funding. I think most of what you're speaking about I've heard, and myself and Councillor Dalton's questions have been about funding. The issue with the 20 hectares, I think it would mean about $200 or $300 million worth of open space in the area you're talking about. That would be sort of the budget almost for the 10 years. So we need to dramatically uplift the funding, and we've got some resolutions about that which are connected to the policy but don't necessarily, the policy needs to sit and then we need to increase the funding. But of course that's rates and etc. But all of us should be advocating for that, I assume. Councillor Dalton, question.
Thank you for the presentation, Margie. Thank you for all the work you did on the working group. Just picking up on what you've just said, actually, Chair, and that was around the 20 square metres per person. We acknowledge that since we went through the emergency budgets, many of our budgets have not been revisited since those significant cuts, this being one of them. Have you been given any ballpark figures what that budget would look like if we were going to do 20 square kilometres per person? 20 square metres per person.
No, we haven't been given that information. We were just giving input about what it looks like for the overall city. And I guess, while finances, I'm always about being prudent and reasonable, we have to think about if we're allowing it to go so far up, it actually is enabling more land out. And if we're just going to put people in like sardines, we have to think about what the feel of our city is going to feel like.
No argument. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, and it's good to follow Councillor Dalton because I sort of on a bit of a similar thing here. Can I have a assurance from you and maybe Megan that the points that the Chair has made will be addressed in the item, the questions that she raises and the points will be addressed in the item, because I think it's important for me as a decision maker here, to be assured that her concerns are going to be covered by staff when we get to the relevant item. Thank you.
Kia ora, Deputy Mayor. Yes, if you look in the agenda and in the policy and in the local board feedback, so in some ways, I was welcoming the board coming here today, but technically we could have had all 21 come to us because the feedback has been quite a lot in that session. So if you look through, there have been some of the issues, but in discussing with staff, the main issue we face is the budget. So we can have all these nice kind of high-level ideas, but I have asked for advice on the 20 square metres, and it did sound like sort of like $200 million per local board.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
So just, you don't have to answer my question. I just wanted to know that the issue will be dealt with at the end.
We will be able to ask all those questions, and I know that Corolla's and team are definitely keen to answer these questions as well. But we do have those additional recommendations that Alf and Councillor Dalton are keen to move. Right, are there any other questions? No, perfect, that's clear. Yeah, if you could just send us those trees, see what we can do in the short term. It may just be a processing, but we can ask those questions too. Right, Councillor
Thank
Ferry.
you.
Thank you both. Councillor Ferry, would you like to move? And Deputy Mayor, would you like to second?
Yes, I will.
All those in favour? Any opposed? Of course not. Thank you, board members. Right, no extraordinary items. Number 8, we move to the item